one of my own ilk. You see, it's a comfort because at least you understand what it means that my watch is broken. At least I have the confidence that I'm with another professional, decent person. Have you confidence in me to lend me your watch until tomorrow?
I think we are daft, but maybe we're back. Maybe we're aftermath. I think we are the bad, and we've mad in the world about. Are we not our own louds?
One of my own ilk.
Who is the falsehood? We may never know. Such is the permuted fog of hokum. Hold me back, or I will burn the contract. We don't know all the names, but science comes back. We are humane. Humane means germane. Are we over, or are we just begun? I know we're not done. Candle that, can you handle the wick? Can you handle the wick to candle this? What measure of matter do we plan? I think we are daft, Maybe we're back. Maybe we're aftermath. Don't we have to move from a time when the math of enslavement is yielding profit to the foundations and funds that have profited from that? Isn't there something called reparations that was begun but was paid almost exclusively to former slaveholders for having lost their quote-unquote property, as opposed to paying those enslaved peoples now freed for abominable human rights atrocities and abuse and sexual assault and more. These are basic 101 humanity things. Reparations for enslavement and genocide, for residential schools and sterilization and experiments, the kinds of things that the global majority has been punished with for no reason but for the racism of white people, for white supremacy. It's totally abominable, and it's underlined in betrayal trauma by our lack of just dealing with it, of actually working through, a cultural shift towards processing this with truth and reconciliation that doesn't happen in one sit-down session, but is about a culture of abolition, a culture of care to apply humanity to where there was tearing of humanity, to foster human family, and to take apart whiteness so that we can be one human family with all of the learning and accountability that it takes, and that we, as some among us at least, have a conscious conversation and processing of this. It's important for us to do. It's important for us not to continue to be just an underlining of massive distortions in the field of reality that built the matrix of white supremacist patriarchal terror. It's just idiotic to continue a lie again and again and again. The truth of this won't go away, and it's better to actually process it and deal with it while there are even anyone still here. We still have a scattered few who are around during times of enslavement. We still have many people who can report firsthand all kinds of documented things as well about Jim Crow and structural racism as it's existed throughout the 20th century and into now. Just the fact of what we're seeing in Mississippi with mass graves of discarded human beings, and what we're seeing in Florida with Ron DeSantis simply being a bold-faced Nazi in broad daylight, targeting and fostering genocide against trans people, targeting people essentially who just are not white cis men, but for certain going after the LGBTQ community and black people and people of Latin community, and like, we have no excuse for just standing by and going, as opposed to saying no one talks to Americans like that. How dare you insult people with terroristic gaslight, saying that enslaved people benefited from that? What kind of mind, except for just a straight up Nazi, would come up with that kind of bullshit? It's unbelievable that news networks, it's unbelievable that people don't take someone to task with having, you know, said things of that nature. It's kind of like when Donald Trump threatens a judge and is belligerent to the point where we're thinking, you know, is he even showing to this judge or to the court or the country or the world, is he demonstrating competency for the trial? He's just out of control. And the object, or the means at least, is a cluster bomb with spiked tires. Like, he's not coming across as sane, as coherent. He's not coming across as having a fix on germane reality such that leading would take us anywhere positive. And so when he literally is attacking and endangering election workers or FBI agents or members, officers of the court or employees of the court, these are very often people he appointed or people appointed by Republicans who would be easily on his side if not for what would break anyone, no matter who it is, of supporting you, that you're dealing in atrocious, illegal conduct, reprehensible behavior, and clear intent to intimidate, to coerce an outcome. It's the spectrum of terrorism that Donald Trump is employing. And then he goes on a town hall and people, hi, Mr. Trump. It's a deference that's like, well, now he's in a different class and he kind of doesn't like the clique in that one class, but it's just no big deal. This isn't the kind of thing that would transfer. Like if there were talk shows in the 40s, would Hitler have gone from calling for the deaths of people in some terrible speech somewhere to a cozy little chat show somewhere and people asking him softballs? Or so that we have, because what we have right now is Donald Trump treating people like garbage, and then in another context on another day or later that night on another network, or maybe on the same network, being treated like just a guest who, nothing's going on, nothing wrong. The person isn't essentially under suspicion for sedition. The person didn't preside over letting COVID into America and endangering during that process people with abhorrent and family separating and, conditions at the border and in detention centers, such that letting COVID in and kind of going, for a month or two while you let it flood the country and have millions of people infected and over 1 million die. That doesn't sound very America first. That doesn't sound very, even in a positive way. Obviously, that's a Ku Klux Klan created phrase, the America First thing, just like MAGA. But what exactly the reality distortion is up with him behaving like a dictator and then walking on to a chat show or to a town hall and people, hosts, talking to him as if, gosh, they're just happy to talk to him and everything's fine, and the whole world is not terrified by his behavior, normalizing him as just a normal candidate, when on the same day he threatened someone's life or directed QAnon followers to keep an eye on the person's address. We're dealing with a person dealing with interacting with the terror spectrum intentionally, repeatedly. And people who do that are prosecuted. People who do that are taken into custody, if only for their own safety. Because someone doing such belligerently ridiculous and violent provocation, it's just not safe. And he doesn't demonstrate the capacity to even let us know if he's in control, really. This is someone holding and withholding knowledge about their basic capacities and gaslighting us. This has always been the way with him. For 8 years, just because we were able to kind of take a breath for a while and pretend that he would just go away maybe, doesn't mean that he ever left. It doesn't mean that he ever went away. Dark triad predators do not just go away. They don't just go away like he claimed COVID would just go away. Which, by the way, has not just gone away. There we are. That's nice. As we become cognizant of the relationship to the world around us, of how we can affect textures. For me, it's going into a dark room or a quiet room and tuning in, probably with my eyes closed, and listening and confirming that things around me feel relatively safe, so that I can calm down and actually meditate and restore executive function. It's important to just be. And if we are never just being, and so it seems important, because if we're never just being, we're never just being. If we're not supposed to just be, then why would we be? If, like any organism or plant or person being, is it written somewhere in our DNA that we're supposed to pay to live? The idea of a farmed and capture pool exploited capitalism. I mean, we have the ability now to make choices. So assembling a sense of what's really happening, harnessing our sentinel intelligence, harnessing our connectedness with a web of the people that we know, with minds that we trust, and casting a wide net to find ideas that challenge ours by people whose minds are challenging in their veracity, in their strength, and their flexibility, because maybe they'll convince us, and maybe we're better off for sparring intellectually with people who are good enough that they make us think, even if they never make us think that we were wrong about what we considered kindness to look like or something. But maybe they do improve how we not only argue, but attain the kinds of things we say we want to foster, or how we at least invite them and foster them for real. Maybe we improve one another. And this is about the real thing. Are we finding it? And if it's about a package of a show that I'm thinking about right now that has to be a certain way and go a certain way in terms of its application and essence as a product, or something that can be put down in a sentence easily and not be terribly disturbing for a company in terms of worldview or anything like that. I foster things through intuition, and it doesn't mean it's pure. It means that I know what I want to utilize, what tools and what I need to be speaking directed at, speaking to, speaking about, with art and music and other kinds of aspects of, and the totality of, theater and live performance and film, but especially live concerts and live performance. That there is always something marvelous to potentially share about a piece of dance or a play, a concert, a happening of some kind, a display. There's always as much to save and share and prevent and celebrate and investigate. There's always, it's just sometimes it's even more apparent. Sometimes, like now, it's terrifyingly apparent that not only can we have an effect, that we must. Because people who do want to so harm and divide are being proactive about bringing the world that they want to see into being. And we need good people to do something other than nothing now. What is the falsehood? I think the falsehood is a massive reality distortion bubble in which we've been swimming for 8 years, a decade, for sure 8 years in a relationship with Trump that is identical to an abusive relationship tessellated across America, if not humanity. These are the findings of the mystery font. But will we ever know? Will we ever know? Is the identity of the falsehood ever going to announce somehow the arrival? How come so many far-right pundits spend years toying with the idea that they're left. There's so much gaslight and playing at and pretending at so that they aren't left without a couple of little twists and turns that can confuse the issue, while essentially they're just bigots. How do we stop arguing with people about whether or not they are bigots? How do we stop arguing with bigots about bigotry? By moving to the next stage, peacefully. In any case, how do we do it?
I made a speech. I looked out. The field was, it looked like a million and a half people. They showed a field where there were practically nobody standing there.
The new White House press secretary, Sean Spicer, gave his first press briefing. He was also highly critical of some media organisations of the way he felt they had misrepresented the number of people who'd attended Friday's inauguration ceremony.
No one had numbers because the National Park Service, which controls the National Mall, does not put any out. This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe.
It does not excuse, and you did not answer the question.
I made a speech. I looked out. The field was, it looked like a million and a half people. They showed a field where there were practically nobody standing there.
The new White House press secretary, Sean Spicer, gave his first press briefing. He was also highly critical of some media organisations of the way he felt they had misrepresented the number of people who'd attended Friday's inauguration ceremony.
No one had numbers because the National Park Service, which controls the National Mall, does not put any out. This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe.
It does not excuse, and you did not answer the question.
I did answer your question.
No, you did not. You did not answer the question of why the president asked the White House press secretary to come out in front of the podium for the first time and utter a falsehood. Why did he do that? It undermines the credibility of the entire White House press office on day one.
Don't be so overly dramatic about it, Chuck. You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. But the point remains.
largest ever.
Peace out, y'all. Love to you.